Drink Different with Dr. Wolf, the change agent. And go.
All right. Welcome. Good evening, everybody. Today is January 27th. Almost a month is gone in 2014. Wow. Man, that's going quick. So, we have a couple hundred listeners out there. I welcome you all. You know that I have developed the Taming Your Anger program, Taming Your Anger with Emotional Intelligence. And I've taught it to a group of veterans who are now teaching it for free at a local library. I began a program on Friday. This has been my vision for the last couple of years. I have called it my Pineapple Project because it takes 2 years to grow a pineapple. It took me 2 years to get permission to teach this program to an entire inner city school with the idea of changing the culture of the school to teach emotional intelligence as basic curriculum in school. And so I've been working with these kids, and I love it, and it's a real challenge because some of these kids is like herding cats, is a mild way of saying it. So I do Taming Your Anger, Emotional Intelligence, and I figured today I'm pissed. I'm here because I'm pissed. And I thought, like I teach these kids, you can't help feeling what you feel. It's not up to you. Because you have an emotional brain that produces emotion. I talk about the three brains. You have three brains. Your reptilian brain is breathing you right now, beating your heart, translating these sounds that are coming over your computer into something that hopefully makes sense. I tell the kids, 5 and 5 is 7, right? And they look at me like I'm nuts. I say, it's not 7. I say, how do you know? It's your thinking brain that knows what 5 and 5 is. So everybody knows they got a reptilian brain. They don't know what to call it because it's beating alive. If that gets damaged, you croak. Everybody knows they have a thinking brain because that's usually what you use when you think of the brain, you think of that. But people don't understand that we all have an emotional brain. So the punchline is, the emotional brain produces emotion the way the reptilian brain produces heartbeats. You can't help it. What you feel happens to you. What you do with it is up to you. You can have pleasant emotions or unpleasant emotions. You can have a rapid heartbeat or a slow heartbeat. You can have a mild or moderate or intense emotion, but it happens to you. And that's a big deal to a lot of these kids because they've opened up and they talk about how they've been told it's not okay to be angry. It's not okay to hate people. Guess what? You may not like it. You may not like to hate people. You may not like to feel good when you're angry. But you can't help it. So, how do you deal with it? The problem is not that you feel anger. The problem is you have to express it without doing harm to yourself, to others, to property, to people's feelings. So, when you get angry, you want to channel it in a way that doesn't do harm on the one hand. But if you can do something good with it, because the problem with anger is when you react it unconsciously, automatically. When your anger comes out as an unconscious, automatic impulse, nothing positive is going to happen, ever. You got to learn that. In the Taming Your Anger program, we take you down that road and you talk about it and figure it out, and we use that as a key, kind of like a crowbar to help you create a change in the way you typically react with anger. So it's not the anger itself. It's unconscious automatic reactivity with anger. Now, I'm pissed. I have the incredible opportunity to chat. A good way to get rid of anger, because anger is an impulse, right? It's an impulse. It's produced by the emotional brain, and it's a pressure. The impulse is a pressure. And like any pressure, it demands to be released. So if you have like too much voltage going to a wire, pow, you get a fire. Too much pressure in a pipe, it blows, you get an explosion. Too much pressure inside one of us, and you, and me, and you, pow, you explode. Once you begin, this is where emotional intelligence comes in, once you begin to understand that emotion is a pressure, and you got to put it, it's got to go somewhere. Now either you direct it consciously, or it directs you unconsciously. A really good way to discharge emotional pressure when you're pissed is to talk about it. To consciously let off steam. Because you know it's in your body and you don't want to carry it. You don't want to carry it in your body. So I'll tell you what I'm pissed at. For one, I am pissed, maybe prematurely, at this Justin Bieber business. So we know this kid who is worth $1 gazillion, who's extremely talented, who's been going off the rails for the last couple of months. I don't follow him, but his news lines are so big that even I notice it. There were some events in Calabasas, California, with a house, and he was damaging people's property and drugs and all this adolescent bullshit, right, that he's doing. Okay, I get it. I was an adolescent. I did my share. But when you have a kid like that driving under the influence of alcohol, that's not okay with me. I have been to too many funerals of too many teenagers to not cringe when I hear that this boy who's trying to figure out, how do you deal with all that fame? How do you deal with all that money? My God, he's got to deal with it. He doesn't recognize maybe that that's part of the challenge for him. Is he going to make it? Adolescence is quite a developmental stage. The challenge is to get out alive without screwing up your life too much. So when you make it to adulthood, it's like, wow, it's like level 5 whitewater rapids or something like that. So as much talent as he has, and as much fame as he has, and as much money as he has, he's got to negotiate how to deal with all that stuff. Or he's going to have a problem. He could have ended up dead like that movie actor up in the Hollywood Hills a month or two ago that was in the Fast and Furious movies. He was doing 100 some odd miles an hour. I don't know if he was under the influence or not. So here's why I'm pissed. I'm pissed that it's looked at as a media event. Talk to Mothers Against Drunk Driving. So I'm of the opinion that he should have his ass nailed to the wall. Nailed to the wall. Especially because it's not the first time. And then even more especially because he's probably got millions, if not tens of millions of kids who look at him and want to be like him. And he needs to be able to send out a message. He's personally not capable yet. Hopefully he'll burn through this and get a couple of really hard lessons that he needs to learn, because then he can be a benefit. But these kids need to know this is not okay. And there's something going on with the dad. I didn't read this directly, but I heard that somehow the dad made this happen. He shut the street down so he could go racing against his buddy in some other couple of $100,000 car under the influence. So his kid is drinking alcohol, which is illegal. He's driving under the influence of alcohol, which is illegal. And his dad is throwing down the flag sign to tell him when he can start and stop. What's wrong with this picture? Now, we all have a problem with the law and society. Well, many of us do. When you see how it is so easily navigated, if you have the right money and you know the right people, you can navigate the laws most of the time. So you know he's going to have the right money and you know he's going to have the right people. But the message that the culture, the people that value conservative values, that want their kids to grow up the straight and narrow, which is a whole other story, but these people, in particular, should want his ass nailed to the wall. Now, I am a progressive. They used to be called liberal. And it's been that way for well over half a century. And I can tell you, I have common cause with those folks. Because I don't want any young teenagers having to have big funerals with 500 people anymore. And so that's why I'm pissed off. And why I say prematurely is I don't know. I guess it was premature because he got fined $2,500. Now I understand that that's probably fair, but that's like somebody charging me a dime for a traffic, for a speeding violation. In terms of what $2,500 would mean to someone of the kind of wealth that he has. So I hope he's held responsible. And I don't care what it is. You can throw his ass in prison, although it's been brought to my attention that wouldn't do any good and probably screw him up. But community service was suggested as an idea. I think that's a good idea. Should be for a year. Working with drunks? I don't know. Anyway, that's that rant. Hey, feel free to, comment. We really appreciate your comments. If you do, we'd be glad to send you a free Taming Your Anger workbook. We'll do that and introduce you to the whole program. But there was another thing going on that I thought was pretty cool, which is also about the law, which is about Chris Christie and what's going on with New Jersey. Now, it sounds like people are really pissed off at Chris Christie's situation. Because, we have things, I don't know how many of you are aware of, it's called the LIBOR scandal. The LIBOR scandal, I think it was Barclays Bank. I'm not good on the facts. They call these stoner facts, okay. I think it was Barclays Bank. There was, and major banks in England, other big banks were involved, were fined over $1 billion with a B within the last year or two because they manipulated the interest rates that banks charge each other to transfer funds. So you had 18 people, probably men, sitting in a room asking each other to manipulate it. I remember hearing one clip about some guy said, well, what's in it for me? And he said, how about sushi dinner? So they manipulate interest rates, which, by the way, affect your interest rate on your house or your car or your credit card. That's the level. So LIBOR was an interest rate manipulation to the tune of billions and billions of dollars. Nobody went to jail, and it wasn't a big deal. It's still not a big deal. Nobody cared about it. But you start messing around with people's commute time on the bridge, now you get their attention. You can steal billions and billions of dollars, maybe trillions, who knows, stoner facts. And people don't notice. But if you mess around with people's driving time, now you're in trouble. And that's what's happening with Chris Christie. And it is Chris Christie, even though nobody, there's all these people that are involved, the guy at the Port Authority and the other woman who said time for a traffic jam and all these characters. I'm loving it. MSNBC has been tearing him apart. But nobody knows any of the other people's names. All people know is Chris Christie's name. And then some other mayor of another town in New Jersey, forget it. She said she was put into a situation where if she didn't support a private investment deal, that was something that the Christie people were back of, that Christie was going to hold back funds for Hurricane Helen. That's a big deal. Federal funding. And so, all of a sudden, we have a big popular guy, probably within the top 3 choices, maybe he still is, for president, Republican Party. He is under the microscope now. And I think everybody that I know is interested. Part of the reason is these guys never go under the microscope. The laws are broken all the time. People go to jail for shoplifting. 700,000 people went to jail for smoking marijuana for marijuana use in 2010. 700,000 people. Nobody goes to jail for economic philandering. Nobody goes to jail, except if you're like this governor of North Carolina,